Kaffeeklatsch, what it means is it's just having a conversation with a friend over coffee or tea or whatever, or water. And you're
I should have brought my tea or coffee, eh?
Do you ever look at what you're doing, from the outside, and think, shit, man, I do amazing things? Because that's not easy. Just managing people on it in itself is a pain in the ass, and especially if it's maybe different cultures, different, you know what I mean? There's all these different levels that's really difficult to understand until you're actually there doing it, right?
No, it is definitely, and we've got obviously, as you say, the different cultures in the Middle East over here. We've got a lot of different nationalities. You've got people from the UK, you've got people from South Africa. We've got a lot of Indian architects and Filipino architects who work with us as well. So you do have a mix of people. You do have a mix of sort of ways of doing stuff, and you've got to be a little bit sympathetic to the different ways and the needs of the people. But it is interesting, and it's just basically a balancing game is what it comes down to. The part that I really enjoy is working with people. I enjoy working with my teams. I enjoy kind of understanding what the needs are. The part that I don't enjoy so much is when you've had a project that you've really worked really hard on to deliver it for a client, and then you kind of deliver it one day late, and the client comes back and says, well, that was late, it doesn't help us anymore, it should have been with us yesterday. So you kind of have those, after all the effort you put in. And on the other side, then it's really gratifying when you walk through one of your projects that you've delivered. I think one of the videos I spoke about was a place called Jumeirah Open Beach, Lamia, which was a development we did in Dubai, which is basically 160 individual little buildings on the beach, little shops, little restaurants and stuff like that, single-story, double-story buildings. And it's become quite a nice destination. People go there with their families. So that was a challenge, because basically the whole project was built on a beach, right? And we had to deal with environmental issues, not to disturb the beach too much. So we used sort of low impact environmental planning principles, where we had prefabrication, off-site manufacture. The basement was constructed in a way that didn't disturb the environment. And when you look at it now, it blends in quite nicely with the whole environment, the whole development. It's very low key, very sustainable, eco-friendly design. And that's the sort of stuff that I like. I'm not really into high-rise or big, tall construction and stuff like that. I prefer the more horizontal, low-key, eco-friendly stuff. I mean, before this, actually, I was working in Namibia. Before I came to the Middle East, I was working in Namibia for quite a few years as well. And that was designing lodges in very remote parts of Botswana, northern parts of Namibia, Angola, and the sort of places where you can only go with a small 6-seater plane, and then you land in this very small landing strip, and then you end up in this remote location for about 2 or 3 months, designing and then going into construction. And that was really fun. But we're in the Middle East now, and the Middle East is different because the projects are much larger, the clients are more aggressive, the teams are much bigger that you work with and stuff like that. So it's a different set of challenges. But to answer your question, no, definitely, Danny. It's satisfying when you look at a project afterwards, and you take your kids there and they go, my daddy designed that. That's kind of a cool feeling.
Yeah, man, how many kids can say that? That's amazing, that.
Yeah, so that's the fun side of it. And like with the kids at home and stuff, we do a bit of sketching, and they love arts and stuff. So they're developing some of those little skills as well, which are nice. To be honest, I don't think they're ever going to become an architect, because I see the stress Dad is under, and I don't think they want that. But they like the artsy side of it for sure.
Maybe the digital lifestyle, you never know.
No, I guess you're right. I've never really looked at myself or at it like that. You just sort of go through the motions of life, And it's like you say, it is a job. At the end of the day, it is just a job. And the only time I get to really stand back and reflect is when I'm with my kids in one of those projects, and they go, Daddy, this is cool. Like, we like what we're seeing, what you've done. Those little moments that you have, that's nice and that's precious. But that's it. So it's nice that you guys kind of pick up on that. Appreciate that. Nice one.
How long have you been married for?
We got married 10 years ago. Yeah, just a little bit more than 10 years.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That was just
it was awesome. Yeah, it was good. So that was, as I said, my wife is Namibian. I did actually feature her in some of the movies, some of the videos as well.
Yeah.
Featured a lot of the girls, Alexa and Brooke. But 10 years. She's a hairdresser. She's an incredible hairdresser. They're on full lockdown, so their work closed down completely because of the situation now. I'm still working from home, but obviously the hairstylist and all that sort of stuff, so which is nice for me because I can have my hair cut at home. That's a bonus. But she's a hairstylist in a ladies salon, and she's a bit of an artist. My wife, she was a graphic designer before, and now she's expressing her art in hairstyling. So yeah, no, it's good.
Beautiful. And I wanted to ask, what makes you happy? What makes Ruan happy, or brings out that passionate side of you? Or how would you define happiness?
But honestly, for me, that's an easy question. Is if my family, if I see my girls are flourishing, and they're doing well, and they're happy, and they've got their little friends at school, they're well adjusted, and I can provide for them the basic opportunities that I had growing up, that makes me happy. You know, it's family is the most important thing to me, for sure, by far.
What's Ruan's story? Like, what's your story? What brought you to to this point? Or
so I'll go back a little bit. I'll go back to before I became an architect. So probably 25 years ago, to give you a little bit of background. Obviously, I'm from South Africa as well. So Denny, we probably grew up in the same country. You're a lot younger than I am. But I grew up in the 70s and 80s and 90s in South Africa. It was an interesting time in South Africa back then, obviously. And I had a nice childhood. I had two sisters. My folks, we had enough money. We weren't extremely wealthy. We had a happy life. We were living in Pretoria at the time. But we had a nice family set up there. And we always sort of going to the English schools, because I actually grew, when I started arts, I was Afrikaans. I couldn't speak a word of English. And it's quite funny. And then my dad said, listen, we want to go and move to England because we want to get out of this apartheid stuff that's happening over here in South Africa. So we're moving the whole family to England. So we had to do a crash course in English language to basically over a holiday. And I ended up having to repeat standard 1 because I went from an Afrikaans school where I was standing in the morning singing the aandag, the stem in the mornings, at attention, which is something I hated doing. The national anthem, and then we went to English primary schools after that, and that I completely loved. So my friendship circles changed, and I became friends with people that were a lot more open-minded, compared to the kind of conservative sort of people that we were with as youngsters, very young kids. And so I wanted to, this creative and entrepreneurial side of me came out in sort of high school already, where I was selling everything from golden products in those days, Amway products. These are like lifestyle products and things like that. I loved going into places like Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi, Mozambique. I was always looking for some sort of like adventurous stuff to do. So myself and my mates would go into Southern African countries. So, at the age of like 15, 16, 17, I was traveling. I wasn't traveling overseas, but I was traveling to other countries, to all the Southern African countries. And eventually sort of developed my own business in importing and exporting leather bags.
Whoa. How old were you?
I was like 17, 18 at that, still at school. But it was like I really wanted to, I just loved the idea of kind of pushing myself, the adventure, and importing exports is something that appealed to me. So bringing in like carvings and curios from other countries, selling them in markets in Pretoria, in Bophuthatswana, places like that, leather bags and things like that. I was selling stun guns to the military. I was selling batons to the police and stuff like it. It was all kinds of stuff that I was doing, right? And at the same time, then I started. The reason I wanted to be an architect was because I always had this dream of designing my own house, building my own house from the natural rock and stuff, from the environment and things like that, and living in this, this place, this like kind of artistic lifestyle is kind of what I wanted to do, right? And so I started studying architecture. I loved it. So I was working as an entrepreneur while at the same time studying. My mother's university was paying half the tuition fees, so I had to take a student loan to pay the rest of it. And which is why I was doing all the stuff. I was also working as a barman, as a waiter, kind of doing everything I could possibly do, right, while studying at the same time. It was a busy time. And then when I finished studying, I was like early 2099, and at that time we were just starting another recession. And it was kind of the worst time to qualify because there was no jobs for an architect back then. And I remember thinking I wanted to move to Cape Town at that point from Pretoria, because there was more opportunities, it was more cosmopolitan and stuff like that. So there I go with my massive big A0 size portfolio bag. In those days it wasn't digital, right? Because we had to draw everything by hand. And I started walking around the streets of Cape Town looking for a job as an architect. And of course, nobody was hiring. Like, even though I did really well, I did well in my course, and I qualified cum laude, I didn't get a job because there was no jobs available. And so I was forced to become a full-time barman at Key 4 in Cape Town. Did that for 6 months, and then eventually I got the call unexpectedly. I kind of left it, and then I got a call 6 months later saying, right, there's a firm that's looking to for you to start out. They've got a job. It was the Grand West Casino in Cape Town, and it was the start of that project. So I was on the founding team for the Grand West Casino back in, that was 2000. Anyway, so I joined that team, and that's kind of where my career started. Worked in Cape Town for a couple of years, and then I decided I want to expand a little bit further. I want to go back into Africa because I had this love, this passion for Africa. And the one place I hadn't gone was Namibia. So went into Namibia, and I absolutely loved it because Namibia is one of the places where you've still got the game roaming completely naturally. You know, we went to places like Etosha. You've got the black rhino, the highest concentration of black rhino in the world is in Namibia, even though they're endangered. Met my wife in Namibia, which was amazing. And then the two of us started traveling, right? We went to all kinds of places, and I told you I was working on these lodges. So it was a beautiful time, a lot of travel, got into nature photography, got into architectural photography, and just loved it. And then we went back to Cape Town for a couple of years. And then she said to me one day, this was about 2007, she said, listen, we need to go to the next level now. We need to push ourselves further. She had this job opportunity in Dubai. And she was a graphic designer at the time. So she came across, and I came to visit her 3 months later and saw this incredible opportunity in this place, right? It was just booming. This was like 2007, just before the big recession that hit everybody in 2008. And it was amazing. I mean, big scale projects. And I thought to myself, this is something I've got to get into now. I've been working on small projects in remote locations, stuff I love, but this is next level. And so I came across, joined a UK firm, and my first job was in Abu Dhabi, working as an architect on a 5-star hotel, eco-friendly hotel in the mangroves. Beautiful project, loved it. And then I went through to construction as well. And that was really nice. I enjoyed it because the interaction with the contractors, the interaction with the different, people from all around the world, architects from around the world, engineers from all around the world. So it was exposure. And then did that for about 3 years. And then I moved on to another project called New York University, which was a big university campus we had to design and build out on Saadiyat Island. Also loved that. But the thing that was getting to me, I was traveling from Dubai to Abu Dhabi. And like I said to you guys, this sort of started in 2007. In 2008, that big recession came. And my company said to me, right, you've got a choice. We're laying off 40% of our workforce, 40% of the guys are going. And we had at that time 600 people, because the company I was working for was a big multinational company. So there was engineers, architects, etc. And they said, Ruan, we like you. You've got a choice. Either you go stay in Abu Dhabi or you continue working there, or we're going to have to let you go. And I said to him, right, I'll take Abu Dhabi. I'll go to Abu Dhabi and I'll continue working there. So for 4 years, I was traveling up and down between Dubai and Abu Dhabi. And it's an hour and a half drive to Abu Dhabi, hour and a half drive back to Dubai. So it's like 3 hours on the road every day. And it started becoming kind of, it started wearing a person out, right? You leave in the morning at 6 o'clock, you get to work at 7:30, full day of design and working on construction projects. Then you leave at 6 o'clock in the evening and you get back at 7:30 in the evening, 8 o'clock, you're kind of tired. And the next morning, the same thing again. And I said to the guys after 4 years, listen, you need to bring me back. So in 2010, they brought me back, and I'm going to kind of skip a little bit ahead now. In 2010, we had our daughter Alexa that was born, and it was beautiful. It was the happiest day of our life. Like, I can honestly say that you guys are parents, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's an incredible experience, right? So my focus started changing from that day forward. It was sort of like work became slightly less important and family became more important to me. And it was frustrating me that I wasn't able to be there, and I was still doing this commute up and down. So basically 2 years later, I came back to Dubai, which was great. And then I went through a series of promotions. I went from being a senior architect to a principal architect, and very quickly up to director for architecture, basically for the Middle East region, which is my current position. And the thing is, like, I remember, like, in 2012, 13, I started getting these feelings of, I'm enjoying the fact that I'm in this position where I can work with large teams and stuff, but I'm not getting time to be with my family. And I'm missing the adventure in my life. I'm missing the stuff like going to Namibia, going to travel. You know, myself and my wife, when we were younger, used to go to Thailand. We used to go to Indonesia. We used to go all over the place on these little trips and these adventures, and we used to love it, backpacking and stuff. And so that aspect of my life was lacking. And I sort of got to the point where I said, you know, I was bringing my work home with me on weekends. I was working until 10 o'clock at night, then coming home, tuck the kids in very quickly, and then continue working until midnight. Getting up the next morning was just becoming repetitive. And I got to the point where I was like, enough is enough, basically. I mean, I was just worn out. And that was in probably 3 or 4 years ago. But at that time, I didn't have any other options. It was like I got to this position. It was almost like a comfort zone. To someone looking in at our life, it looked like things were good, you know, the perfect life. I had a good position. We were doing okay financially. We had I still have a beautiful family. My kids were happy, but I wasn't fulfilled and happy on the inside. And I missed that element of adventure. I wanted to show my kids what I'd experienced as a young person growing up as well. And so I decided to make a change, you know, and it took me a long time to find the SFM. I went through so many different options, tried out different things, tried to start my own small business while still working. But time was always the issue for me because I had such limited time. And I was in a position where I couldn't just simply stop and break away because I had dependency on the salary. I had dependency. The kids' school fees are really expensive in Dubai. You know, so you kind of feel this element of pressure, indirect pressure, that you need to continue doing what you're doing. But all my dreams were being kind of put on hold. And so it was basically last year where I finally I started watching YouTube videos and stuff like that, and just looking for other things to stimulate my mind with. And I came across Dan Holloway's video and his bio ad. And to be honest, it was like completely talking to what I needed at that point in time, right? It was a timing thing. He answered the exact need of what I had. And I was sold instantly when I heard his bio ad about this possibility of making money online, about the freedom and the flexibility and all of these things. And for me, the key thing was the family, to have more time with my family. So I was like your perfect SFM candidate from the beginning. He didn't have to persuade me. I was already convinced. And so I went through the system. I didn't even watch the videos, the 3 or 4 videos. I just went straight in, right? I was like, where can I start? Where can I sign up? Let's go. And it was amazing. And then from there, obviously, went through the journey with the modules. Modules 1, 2, 3. Module 2 was incredible because it was a major transformation for me. And this very linear process was incredible as well. But it was a challenge because at the same time, my work was not slowing down, my normal work. So I had to do the SFM sometimes at 11 o'clock to 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock at night, and find little gaps on the weekend. And the irony is the very thing that I was trying to get more of, which is more time with my family, is what I was sacrificing during the last 6 months to work on the SFM, because now the little time I had on weekends, I would be working on the SFM. And I said to my wife, she said to me, Ruan, I'm giving you 8 months, right, to show us that you can do something from this. And we've got you've got our full support, but we need to put a limit to it because we need to see some sort of result. And it doesn't have to be money necessarily. It just needs to be light at the end of the tunnel. And I think I'm sort of getting to that point now. You know, it's taken a long time, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm going to be launching my first ad on YouTube. I'm part of an accountability group. I've made amazing connections through the 90-day video journey. And things are just starting to feel much more, there's a lot more momentum in what I'm doing. In the beginning, there's like you're shooting out these arrows all over the place and you're not really sure when this is all going to start coming together. But things are starting to come together and I can feel that now. All the knowledge that you've gained in so many different areas is starting to kind of diverge, which is cool. But it is, and I mean, looking back on that now, I'd sort of say the one thing that I realized that I maybe did a little bit wrong is if I was starting out with the SFM again, I would go straight into the modules, go through the modules, very linear, put the blinkers on and not get sidetracked with all the other stuff that's available, YouTube videos, the webinars, the seminars and stuff like that. Get the basic foundation laid and then start, once you know where you want to go, then start looking at other stuff. But it was a beautiful journey. It was a beautiful journey. And the key, like I think the 90-day video journey really did it for me, because up until that point, you're very much isolated, working on your own, not connecting that much because you don't know about this community. You know about the webinars, you see people on a Zoom call, but you don't have relationships with them. And through the journey, you really start connecting with people. You watch their videos, you get inspired by their stories. You realize that there's people that have a similar life but different to your life. Mm-hmm. There's someone in Spain, there's someone in Germany, there's someone in Australia that are going through the same pains that you are on the other side of the globe. And you start talking to these people, it's amazing,